Hello again, and welcome to part two. Part two is called Why Hawaii? This is about some of the assets that we have for addressing issues of sustainability and becoming a model and a world leader in sustainability. This is a picture of Hokulea returning from its worldwide voyage, known as the Malama Honua Worldwide Voyage. And if you were there on this day at Magic Island, this was probably one of the most exciting days that I've ever felt in Hawaii. I think that everybody, just whatever their connection was to Hokulea, really felt the importance of the accomplishment of the worldwide voyage. The symbolism of this Polynesian navigating vessel going all around the world, docking into places, exchanging culture with the indigenous peoples all around the world, exchanging ways we could work together, collecting data and images and sharing them with children in classrooms all around the world. Symbolizes to me, and I think to many people, what makes Hawaii a world leader in sustainability. So I certainly was very inspired by the Malama Honua Worldwide Voyage. Hawaii has so many cultural values to guide us in the way we approach sustainability, including Malama Aina, Malama Honua, care for the Earth Island, and then this word Mauo, which is a new word for sustainability. So traditional Hawaiians didn't have to have a word for sustainability because you either lived sustainably or you were dead. So there was no word for sustainability. But this word Mauo means to perpetuate our well-being. How do we continue to live with a sense of well-being? So this was a new word that was shared in 2015 to describe and to put the word sustainability into the vocabulary of Olelo Hawaii. Hawaii is a world leader because of our abundance of renewable energy. So in part one, I talked about our reliance on imported oil, and I talked about some of the problems related to our waste to energy facility, H-Power. But this is the mix that we have available for looking at renewable energy sources. So if you look just at the image, you see wind, you see waves, you see sunshine. We have so many ways to work with renewable energy. So when we look at solar, 9% of our renewable energy mix is from residential solar. So there's grid solar and there's residential solar. So looking for an exact percentage of how much of our energy comes from solar is kind of tricky, and it changes day by day, and it changes depending on whether you're talking about residential solar or grid solar. But right now, let's say on Oahu, we're approaching 21% of our energy as renewable energy. And let's say approximately half of that comes from residential solar panels. 6% of our renewable energy, as I said before, comes from waste to energy. And on the island of Oahu, only 3% comes from wind, although that percentage is much higher on the other islands. A little bit from biofuel, which has its own controversies. So it's an interesting and very exciting field that fluctuates rapidly. So these statistics were from the Hawaiian Electric Facts website, and you can look that up for different islands. Hawaii is such an exciting place to be because once you start looking at these issues, there are so many people doing so many awesome things. So once you decide what matters to you and where you want to get involved, it is not hard to find other people who are getting involved in issues from preserving culture to rooftop gardening, eliminating plastics in Hawaii, confronting pesticides, and just overall decreasing our reliance on imported goods, oil, and food. I heard once that we could, in fact, create our own food supply if every square foot of rooftop space had a garden on it. So there's lots of different ways to look at how we can achieve these things, and lots of different groups working on them. So we actually have a law that says we are committed to 100% renewable energy by the year 2040. And when Hawaii makes a law, other places pay attention. So soon after Governor Ige signed this bill, California made a similar goal. So, you know, we're part of a sort of global shift to renewable energy. And really, all we have to do is commit to it. There are jobs here. There are reductions in our carbon footprint here. There are ways we can be more resilient and more able to respond to something like a hurricane. So you can kind of see the chart to increasing our shifting into renewable energy. And there are lots of people working on how to make that happen. One of the sort of mechanisms for the state to track renewable energy is called Hawaii Green Growth. And you can look at this dashboard, and it actually tracks energy production on every island, and it actually tracks several different areas. The Aloha Plus Challenge actually preceded the Sustainable Development Goals and are kind of a localized framework for introducing the Sustainable Development Goals in Hawaii. So we'll talk more about both of these later, but they're really important frameworks for tracking some of these goals. It's very easy to say, let's be 100% renewable by 2040, but that's really only 22 years away. So again, how old will you be in 2040? And how will Hawaii be different? What jobs might exist that you haven't thought of? What kind of car will you drive? What kind of life will you live? What else needs to change in order for Hawaii to achieve 100% renewable energy by 2040? This is another bill that was signed specifically related to the University of Hawaii. This commits the University of Hawaii to being net zero by 2035. So net zero means that whatever energy is not produced by renewable energy will be offset, creating a net zero situation. So currently, let's say University of Hawaii is about 2% renewable. But some campuses like Maui College, 100% net zero energy. They're already there. Leeward Community College is at like 97%. So they just have to do a little bit to close that gap to be renewable. Other campuses have different restrictions about, you know, how many solar panels they can put up or how to go about doing this. So University of Hawaii is committed to making the entire UH system net zero by 2035. University of Hawaii system impacts 55,000 students. So if you look at the role of UH in meeting that state goal, it's pretty significant. And then lastly, something that's so exciting about working for the University of Hawaii is seeing the way students have a role in all of this. So these are two former student leaders who were part of this conversation about divestment. So a lot of people don't even know that the University of Hawaii system divested its economic portfolio from fossil fuels. So this means that the money that keeps the University of Hawaii running, right, its endowment, is invested in stocks, and those stocks make dividends. But the decision of the Board of Regents was basically an economic one. They said that is in the long-term financial interests of the University of Hawaii system to move away from fossil fuels. And we're really one of the first major university systems in the country to divest. And that happened largely because of student proposals and student interest. And students really drive a lot of the major changes at the University of Hawaii. So when we talk about sustainability, we get kind of excited. We talk about, let's go 100% renewable energy, let's divest from fossil fuels, let's grow all our own food, let's put a ban on plastic, right? It's easy to get really excited, but then how do we get there? Like, what can we actually do? So I've seen a lot of people just get hung up talking about what is sustainability. So sustainability was a term kind of first introduced. This conversation started in 1989 with Gru Brundtland. So you might hear people talk about the Brundtland definition. People don't know that she was a woman, the chair of the UN committee that was looking at this. So she's a Norwegian woman who introduced this definition. Sustainability is the ability to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. That's all it was a committee introducing a definition. Now, that's a nice definition, and we see it used frequently, but what do we mean by needs? Right? So here's a story. It's a little weird, but I think it illustrates the problem with this idea of needs. So let's say that we need to cork a bottle of wine. We could talk about whether or not people need wine or not, but let's just say we have a need to put a kind of stopper into a wine bottle, and we usually use cork. Right? In the present generation, we tend to use corks to put in the wine bottle. However, you may have seen plastic corks in wine. So a future generation could meet the needs of the definition of sustainability by corking their wine with a plastic cork. However, this would fail to take into account that cork is actually a sustainable resource harvested from the bark of a particular tree. So when cork is sustainably harvested, it can be used to make corks, and then the trees support a particular subspecies of lynx, a type of big cat, that lives in this environment with the cork trees. So if the present generation is meeting their needs with a plastic cork, then maybe they put a parking lot over the cork trees, and then there's no more habitat for that particular lynx, right? So this is called systems thinking, and it's what really complicates the conversation about sustainability. It sounds like a simple definition, but how do we know how these things affect each other and how our needs will impact future needs? So in response to this complication, lots of different models and definitions of sustainability have been proposed. And most of them boil down to something like this 4 pillars definition. Sustainability is not just the environment. The solutions that we look at also need to work from an economic standpoint. People need to have jobs. People need to be able to make a living. They need to work from a societal standpoint. We must have equity in society, and all people need to have health and well-being. Sustainability also can't be at the expense of culture. right? It's an important part of a sustainable paradigm. So sometimes these are looked at as pillars, and if we focus too much on the environment, we might forget about society. It's one way I like to look at it. Another way is this nested framework, right? The economy can only thrive inside of a thriving environment, inside of a thriving society. And culture includes and transcends society, the environment, and the economy. So thinking about how all of these aspects are part of sustainability. In order to be able to make decisions that keep all those pillars of sustainability in mind, we designed 7 core concepts for systemic change. The first one is sustainable economics, the concept of ecological services, concept of the ecological footprint, the concept and field of sustainable materials management, the concept of climate change mitigation, adaptation, and resilience, the concept and field of sustainable food systems, and lastly, traditional ecological knowledge and the concept of equity. These core concepts are designed as a common vocabulary across the University of Hawaii system, and they're used in conversations around sustainability designations, in the curriculum, certificates in sustainability. Faculty talk about these concepts and how they play in different academic disciplines. We'll talk more about each of these concepts in the third and final portion of Sustainability 101.